be acceptable in thy sight, for you are truly our rock and our redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
This morning, scriptures found on the back of your bulletin. It is the Luke passage, Luke 17, verses 11 through 19. Luke 17, verses 11 through 19. And they read as follows. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 lepers approached him, keeping their distance. They called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And then he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? Were 9? Where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well."
Amen.
Let us consider this morning for a theme from wretched to redemption. From wretched to redemption. If you have come this morning to be affirmed that God fits neatly within the exclusive contours of how you realize God, you might want to excuse yourself right now, because chances are you will be disappointed. This morning's lesson, as Jesus does throughout the gospel narratives, steps outside of the boundaries of the so-called mainstream to provide us within the boundaries of trying to be followers of Jesus' teachings, a life lesson that we can take home this morning. The text tells us that Jesus was on his way to a rendezvous with destiny. He was going through a region between Samaria and Galilee. That would suggest that he was in a region based on societal standards between where he should have been, Galilee, and where he was not supposed to be, Samaria. See, it's one thing to be in Galilee, but a good Jew would not be caught dead in Samaria, because Samaritans were unclean people, and as we have talked about on numerous occasions, to merely talk to someone who was unclean would make that person as well deemed unclean. These are two regions that Jesus is sandwiched between. A region that has him between Samaria and Galilee, and a region between where he should be and where he should not be. You ever been in a region in your heart, a region in your soul that has you between where you should be and where you're not supposed to be, but you find yourself there anyhow? That's a region of confusion. That's a region of frustration, a region of helplessness. That's a region of disappointment. Jesus in the text is where some of us might be right now. Between where we should be and where we should not be. As he entered the village, text says that 10 lepers approached him, keeping their distance. 10 individuals with a disease that affects the skin and nerves and can cause tissue change. The Reverend Richard Fairchild narrates this condition of leprosy this way. Imagine not being able to see anyone you love except at a distance. After a while, everyone you know would stop coming to see you. No one would want to look at you or have anything to do with you, and no one, despite the fact they claim to love you, will ever hug you or kiss you or touch you again. No one with you, that is, except those who are like you, those whose bodies are twisted, shortened, deformed, distorted, and warped like yours, creating the most tragic imagery of misery loves company. Imagine it, waiting and hoping, trying to hope for that 1 in a million chance, hoping that your sores will clear up and that you will be able to go to the priest and hear him say the word clean as he stands over you. Imagine what it means to have to go around in rags and wear clothing that is torn and tattered. Imagine how hard it must be to let your hair grow long, never being allowed to comb it. Imagine how it must feel to cry out, unclean, unclean, whenever you come near a normal person. That is what leprosy is all about. No one in their right mind would want to come near it. In other words, leprosy was a physical disease that carried the added burden of social stigma. You know, there are certain diseases that can do that. The social stigma around the disease can cause folk to place more emphasis on how they feel about someone having the disease, so much so that they place the individual's actual condition on the back burner. Today we don't call it leprosy. We call it AIDS. We call it addiction. We call it mental illness. So when the text says the 10 lepers approached him, keeping their distance, their internal pain caused them to seek Jesus out, but their external reality caused them to keep a distance. That's got to be aggravating to the spirit. Internal pain, crying out for help, but still feeling that you must keep your distance. That's why a lot of people don't come to church. Whatever reason, justified or not, they're longing to be in community, but regretfully keep their distance. And it also keeps those who are in the church silent when the pain of their condition beseeches them to cry out. These 10, however, while keeping their distance, got close enough to get Jesus' attention. They called out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." Let us examine what's happening in verse 13. First, they know who Jesus is. That's a good place to start. We don't know how they know, but they know. And that's what's important. Second, they petition Jesus as a community of believers linked together by their suffering. Not as a pity party, but as a proactive desire for change. We see in these 10 lepers the same inspiration that spawned the black church, ostracized by the peculiar institution of slavery that condemned them to a life sentence of second-class citizenship by the dominant culture, but linked together by a common suffering, sought redemption and liberation from Jesus' love. How many times over the course of human history has the oppressed cried out like these 10 in this morning's text, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us"? That's why I like to close service by reminding you that in everything there is a crack. And that's how the light gets in. That's how love gets in, invades our lymph nodes of our humanity, and injects the soul with grace and mercy. Because sometimes our exterior puts up a shield, but God finds those cracks to get inside. The text goes on to say that when Jesus saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priest." As they went, they were made clean. Notice, if you will, Jesus does not heal anyone immediately. Instead, he tells the 10, the social outcasts still in the wretched condition of leprosy to go show themselves to the priest, which is calling their faith into courageous action. As I stated before, Jewish law demanded those deemed unclean remain outside of the community until the priest cured them and certified them as worthy of returning to social acceptance with all rights, privileges thereunto and pertaining. But if you spend time as a social outcast, what may seem like the obvious to one individual may be viewed as a courageous act of faith to another. And just because they were cured of leprosy, there was no guarantee they would have been granted clean status. Therefore, I submit to you, this is a courageous act of faith. Jesus' directive was to show themselves to the source of their unclean status in order to have their social standing restored. And before the actual change occurred, they went on his word. The one who said you were unclean, go back to him right now. And they trusted Jesus enough to do it. All of us, our faith will be challenged in such a way that it will be an act of courage. It will be an act of courage to act on your faith in such a way that is transformative. It is so easy to stay in that same weary, worn-out way that you've grown accustomed to. So therefore, this act of faith, the word used in the text, cleansed, could mean curing of leprosy, but it also could mean to be pronounced clean according to the priest. Since we have no evidence in the text that they ever arrived before the priest, we can only conclude the use of the word cleanse was based on their physical condition. Moreover, the text reminds us that as they went, which strongly suggested before they arrived to the temple for certification, they were already clean before they got to the priest. In that moment, the 10 had gone from wretched to redemption, from despicable to deliverance, from loathsome to love, from marginal to mercy, from trivial to transformation. For those of us trying to make sense of the human condition in the 21st century, what transpires afterwards, whether the 10 were granted clean status by the priest, in some ways is irrelevant. See, one cannot be transformed until they realize for themselves. For the realization of their transformation, the text occurred before the priest granted his blessing. If you need someone to certify your transformation, then your transformation is held hostage based on how someone else feels at the time. That's not how it works in the kingdom of God. There will always be those who will discount what God has done for you. You didn't do it the way they did it. Your path was not like their path. Your struggle was not like their struggle. And they will try to disqualify what God has done for you based on their limited human understanding, without realizing that no one but you fully understands and appreciates what God has done with you, what God has done through you, and what God has done for you.
Amen.
No one, not the preacher, not your parents, not your best friend, not your children, not even your spouse, knows completely what you mean when you say, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side. They don't fully understand what you mean when you say, blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. They don't know completely what you mean when you say, if God is for us, then who can be against us? They don't completely know what you mean when you say, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. And they really don't fully know when you say, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to God's purpose. God is not limited by our social structures of religiosity. All 10 were clean, but all 10 were not Jews. One was a Samaritan.